Nice. Hello, everyone. Today with a special episode. It's our first late real European football talk. Normally, we always sending out like 1300. Now it's already close to 9 o'clock. But we have a special guest today with me on the side, of course, Coach Mele. And today we have a 4 times German Bowl champion, 3 times Hero Bowl champion with the New York Alliance from Braunschweig, Liberty offensive line player and team captain. He's one of the German kids who go over and played football in the States and was a captain of a team. So this is also a special thing. And you all know him. He's the face of the Playmaker camps in Germany and I think so also Europe. He will talk about himself. Welcome, Sören Wendland. Welcome, Sören.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, nice to have you. Sören, how everything starts, go straight into how you become with American football in touch and how was the way over to the United States in a time there was no big run NFL and people know everything. How you start football in Europe and how was the way to Liberty University?
Yeah. Okay. So when I started playing football, I remember it was 2000, and I was how old was I? I think I was 14 years old at that time, and I remember seeing the commercials on TV for the Super Bowl, and I was like, wow, the colors are so amazing. That sport, that looks like fun. That looks like action. All these big guys, the colors, the excitement around the commercials. I was like, I have to watch the Super Bowl. So then I asked my mom, hey, I want to watch the Super Bowl. It's really late at night. Can I watch it? Of course, she said, no, you cannot watch it. So then I recorded the Super Bowl with on the VHS, and over the next 2-3 days, I watched the game. Yeah, the game was kind of long. I only watched like an hour at the time, and I think I wasn't allowed to watch much TV at the time, and my mom was really had an eye on it. So I watched the game and was really excited. Every day I went back to school and I talked to my friends about Eddie George, Kurt Warner, Torrey Holt, and the exciting game. And I told my mom after I saw the game, I was like, I want to play football. And coming from Cuxhaven, I always thought, oh, we don't have a football team. Mom, you have to drive me to Bremerhaven because the Bremerhaven Seahawks, they have a football team. I need to play football.
Oh,
And she
wow,
said,
yeah.
no, it's too far. I'm not driving you to Bremerhaven. So actually a week later, in one of those weekly newspapers that you get in the mail, like these advertising newspapers, there was an article about the Cuxhaven North Stars football team. And my mom showed me, hey, there's a football team in Cuxhaven. And I was like, yeah, I have to go. That's amazing. And they were looking for players. They said they were setting up a youth team. And so my dad then took me to football practice. And I think that was a Friday or a Tuesday. And I went there, and the first time I got on the practice, the coaches welcomed me, and they were so excited to see me, see this big guy who wanted to play football, and I played football. The first practice was I just got hooked, and that's what I wanted to do. So I went to practice, and the team was really small, Cuxhaven North Stars. They didn't really have a youth team. They had a few youth players, like 10, 12 kids who wanted to play. But over time, the players dropped. They didn't want to play anymore, looked for other stuff.
Oh,
And I really wanted to play. So they said to me, hey, you're a really big guy. You're tall. You're big. Hey, you can practice with the men's team. I was like, okay, yeah, great. So I practiced with the men's team when I was 15 years old. And I got my basically I was just practicing. I never really played in any game, and because there was no team,
yeah.
and I practiced with the men's team, and pretty much went its way. I got to play for the Niedersachsen All-Star team, the All-State team. That was a great experience for me. Then actually, I think 1 or 2 years later, I was asked if I would want to join the Ritterhude Badgers. They're still around, yeah, the
Yeah,
Ritterhude
that's
Badgers.
no life.
I joined them. I played for the youth team actually. That was great because I finally got to play like organized football, even though I wasn't at practice much because the trip was really long. So I was practicing in Cuxhaven with the men's team, and every once in a while I came to practice with the Ritterhude, and then I played in the games. And after that year, I suffered an ACL injury.
Ooh.
I had to get surgery on my knee, but I was able to come back from surgery. So 2003, basically, I set out. 2004, I came back from my knee surgery, and I was finally 18 years old, and I got to play for the Via Vikings in the GFL2. So I was one of the youngest players, and I would say in the GFL2, I was 18 years old. I could have played one more year of junior football, but I played for them in the GFL2.
Wow.
That same year, I made it to the German junior national team as a defensive lineman, and I traveled with them to Moscow to the European Championship. That was a great experience. Got to play in Russia at the European tournament, and I played GFL2. And then the following year, after playing in GFL2, I was offered by the Hamburg Blue Devils to join them and play in the GFL. Okay, and the Hamburg Blue Devils, they just came off. I think they didn't win the German Bowl. They lost the German Bowl to Braunschweig that year. So 2005, I played for the Hamburg Blue Devils.
Wow, in the big time of the Blue Devils, I remember.
Yeah, that was still the good time.
Yeah. Wow.
And I got to start. It was a great season. We made it all the way to the German Bowl. We lost to Braunschweig. Braunschweig won their first German Bowl. I think after four losses, and then I finished my Abitur that next year, 2006. And right after I finished my high school here in Germany, I went over. I got a scholarship to play football at Liberty University.
Okay. And how that was come? How was the idea from going from Germany away to the United States?
Yeah, so pretty much as I was, it's a really strange story. But it's great that it happened. And so when I played for the German junior national team, my name showed up on the roster, and with my name on the roster, it showed my size. I'm like 2 meters and 1, and I was 135 kilos at the time already, right? So I was always really big. And then my mom comes in my room one day and says, "Hey, there's somebody on the phone from America." Right?
Wow.
And I was like, okay, well, okay. So I talked to the guy, and the guy says, "Hey, I'm this guy. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I think some people that are now trying to play college football or played college football, they know him. As you say, his name is Dan Hearn, right? He's around. So he called me, and I was like, how do you find me, right? He said, "Well, I found you on. I saw that list." And I saw the team you played for, and then I was still listed with Cuxhaven North Stars at that time, right?
Yeah.
And that was my luck, because if I would have been listed for Via Vikings, he would have never found me in the phone book. Okay, so he basically looked up Cuxhaven and then my last name Wendland, and called every family in Cuxhaven with the last name Wendland, and then he reached me. I think there's only 2 or 3, and I think it was the first one to reach actually. But so then I started a dialogue with him basically, and it was endless conversations over the phone, on email. And basically what it came down to, he said, "Hey, if you have the size, right? If you have decent tape, it's possible for you to get a scholarship in the US." And I was like, "Yeah, I want it. What do I have to do?" So he was then telling me, "Okay, this is what you need to do. You need to find a school that gives you a scholarship. So we need tape, okay? Send over some tape. I give the tape to some schools in the area where I live. And then what will help you is you come over to the US for a trip. We tour some schools, and maybe a school will give you a scholarship." So basically, that's what I did. I was in contact with him. I sent him some tape. He sent tape to schools in his area where he lived. And I got my first email. From James Madison University. They said, "Hey, we want to give you a scholarship on the spot." Right? It was just a bunch of it. And once you get in this recruiting game, it's a bunch of 50% truth, 50% complete bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So they were telling me, "We want to give you a scholarship." Then James Madison called me, "We want to see you." And then I told my parents, I said, "Hey, I think there's a chance I can go over to the US, and there's a chance for me." So I said, "Hey, I need money. It doesn't matter. Give me a phone. I need 2,000 euros. I need to fly to the US. I need to just meet some schools." Right. So then they said they got their savings together. They sent me over to the US. I met up with Dan. Dan picked me up from the airport, stayed at his house. Turned out he's a really nice guy. He's a little odd, but he's a really great guy. I stayed with his wife and him, and he drove me around to these schools. The first school we went to was Liberty, and I liked it there. It was like nice campus, and I didn't know anything about college football pretty much, so I thought that Liberty, that was like the biggest thing ever. Then we went to University of Virginia, we went to University of Richmond, William and Mary, we saw Villanova, we saw James Madison, we saw Towson University, and yeah, so and UVA was a great experience too. They toured me around. They liked me in a way. But to be honest, the only school who offered me a scholarship in the end was Liberty. Okay. So and then after my visit there, I went there in October after the German Bowl in 2005, and then around January, Liberty called me and said, "Hey, we want to fly you in for an official visit." So I skipped school. I got in the airplane. I flew to the US on, I think it was on a Friday. Then they said, "Hey, why are you staying here only for 3 days?" Because I flew in on Friday and I left on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
I went to my official visit. I visited Liberty, and then they offered me a scholarship. And the reason why they gave me a scholarship was Coach Rocco, who at Liberty, who gave me a scholarship. He met me when I went to visit the University of Virginia, right?
Okay.
And he remembered me, and when he saw me on the recruiting list at Liberty, he said, "I want that guy," because they at the University of Virginia, they felt like getting this German guy was a little bit too much of an experiment.
Yeah.
But for Division One AA at Liberty, Liberty was at the time, he felt like they can develop this guy into something because they have a need for bigger bodies, right? So
Yes.
back then it wasn't that easy with YouTube and all that stuff. You actually had to make DVDs, then send them out. There weren't many Germans out there. There was no German who made it to the NFL yet, right? And or there were some in the past, but not somebody very
Right.
at that time, And there were only, I think, like 3-4 guys, European guys, maybe at college football at that time when I was 2006, right? So I went over. Then I got my scholarship. I did on all the paperwork. And after I graduated with my Abitur, I needed to pass my Abitur to be able to get that scholarship. And at that time, I finished my Abitur, my physics class. I actually had 0 points in my physics test, right? And I think nowadays you wouldn't pass your Abitur, but back then you could still pass. But
Yeah.
I had my GPA was like right at the borderline GPA to get the scholarship. I got it, and then I went over. And at Liberty, then I got there. I really focused just on football and school. I got my bachelor's within 3 years. I got a little early because I stayed in the summer. I focused on just football and school. That's pretty much all I did. And my first 3 years I played defensive line because in Germany I always played defensive line. And in my junior year they said, "Hey Sören, you're gonna play offensive line now. We have a need. We need a tackle, and we think you'll be great with that, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I always was the guy who said, "Okay, whatever I have to do, I do. Whatever you want me to do, I do." Right? So I did it. And first day I practiced offensive line, I felt like shit afterwards because I realized I should have played offensive line from day one I got there. It was just a more natural position for me. And looking back, why they moved me from defensive line to offensive line, it was always, they were telling me, because your hands are too slow. And I never understood what it means. But then I finally understood it. It means like I wasn't able to get the separation. That the defensive lineman really needs to get in, put his hands on the man, create separation, right? So he can read and make the tackle, right? And I was more the guy who put his face in the other guy, right? So more like an ideal offensive lineman, come in, face on, and push him out. And my hands were just not fast enough. And I like to say sometimes now, when after my career, when I've been coaching at the camps, I like to tell, hey, if you play defensive line and you cannot get the separation with your hands, like you always catch yourself in a man, you're probably a very better offensive lineman, right? And that's the truth. Like when I was coaching last year with the Adler, and the first thing we did, one of the first things we did was we moved the worst linebackers to offensive line and the worst defensive linemen to offensive line, and they were great offensive linemen, right?
Oh, yeah, really?
So I played offensive line my first year in the offensive line, I really had to learn the position and the playbook. I never played offensive line before. I always played defensive line in Germany. And I spent a lot of time in the film room, watched a lot of tape, spent a lot of time meeting extra with the coaches, just learning, meeting with other players, learning the plays, understanding the techniques, really putting, and I've always put every day, I put an hour and a half in of extra agility work and footwork just to get in the rhythm of playing offensive line. And it really helped out. I started in the spring. And then when the season started, I was started out as second string, but I split playing time. After the third game of the season, the guy in front of me got hurt, and from that day I was a starter. Right.
Yeah.
When he came back, we split some time, but then it wasn't really much splitting anymore. Yeah, and then my senior year, I was full-time starter. I was team captain. Was a great experience. It's just we won the Big South Championship every year when I was there. That was great. But at Liberty at that time, there was this, now they're in Division One. They're in the FBS, and they actually won the bowl game, a bowl last year.
Yeah.
At that time, they were FCS, so Division One AA. And what I kind of wish sometimes that we would have made it to the playoffs. We never made it to the playoffs. We always got kind of voted out of the playoffs. So we made it. We were number 14 in the nation at some point. Yeah, then we lost 2 games to weak opponents, and that kind of got us out of the playoff one year. We were 9-2, and it's just kind of sad sometimes we didn't make it to the playoffs, because that was always the big goal: make it to the playoff, make it to national championship. But you have to have high goals. And looking back, it was a great experience. It was really valuable experience, and yeah, I got a lot of education out of it. I finished my bachelor's, my master's there on scholarship. Didn't have to pay anything. Met my wife, so yeah. Yeah, good experience in college.
Absolutely, that sounds great. I mean, this is what the most kids dream of: going over, become the team captain, and of course now saying, "Oh, don't make the playoffs." But I think you accomplish a lot of things, and this is the stories I love to hear when you say, no YouTube and all that stuff. Kids from right now, it's so easy. You have huddle, get your highlights on huddle.
Yeah.
It's like 5 minutes. I say the old dogs.
Yeah.
DVD and VHS, how it calls.
Yeah.
It's tough. And now is tomorrow the draft. Was for you as a team captain, as an all-time starter, was there some dream? Of course, the dream was there to make it to the NFL. We all have that. But was there something people reach out to you, or how it goes on?
Yeah. So my story of the NFL. Well, when I was my senior year, you have scouts coming in, looking at practice. They're looking at tape. I had some scouts talking to me sometimes. They were actually, that was really nice, because they told me, hey, we watched your tape, we like your size, we like this, you really need to improve on this and that. Okay, so that was some great insights. And after the season was over, I got an agent, and the agent, he sent me train in Pittsburgh, so I was training there for 6 weeks for my pro day. See, my agent only committed to 6 weeks. Okay, that's not a good sign if your agent only commits to 6 weeks sending you train somewhere, because usually when you're like a preferred kind of draft pick or walk on, or somebody really believes in you, they would take you for 3 months and send you somewhere to really prepare you all the way up to training camp. But my agent, he sent me for 6 weeks. I was rated as like possible to be in training camp, right?
Yeah.
So by when I came out in 2000, when was it? It was 2011, right?
Yeah.
So 2011, they had this NFL bargaining agreement was renegotiated and came to the lockout. Okay, so what the lockout meant was that the NFL didn't do the operation as they would usually do. Okay, so usually they do the draft in April. Okay, and after the draft, well, this year is probably going to be different too for them because of Corona. But usually they do their draft in April, and pretty much after that they start with their preparation, with their camps, with some kind of practice. They basically start out, I think, with a 90-man roster, and then they carry that until training camp starts, and then they cut it down, right?
Yeah.
Or then they really determine who's going to be on this larger roster until they cut it down.
Right.
And so when I came out, April comes, the draft comes, there's a lockout, and the teams were not allowed to communicate with free agents, with nobody. They couldn't communicate. So there was like I didn't hear anything, right? My
Yeah.
agent didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything. My teammates, nobody heard anything, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't do as normal as their operations with the training camps. So what then happened to me was, as I was waiting, I was getting nervous, and I wanted to play football, and I signed up with an indoor football league team. So I was playing the Green Bay Blizzards indoor football league at that time. Contacted me. I was there for a week, and then I thought I'm gonna go there and play, and I was it was kind of good. That was kind of a strange thinking for me because those are all guys that they play college football, they play full pro football. And you think you go there and you play right away while they're at the end of their season, while they're almost making the playoffs, right? It's basically you come in as a backup, right? So I come there, I realize I'm a backup. I don't get to play. And then if you don't play, you only get $50 a week. If you play, you get $250 a week. So I was thinking, nah, it's not worth it. I'm gonna go back. So I went back. I left the team, and then I really decided, hey, I'm done here, and I got an offer in Germany. I got offered an apartment and some money, and just to kind of get established. And I was thinking, just gonna go do that until the NFL season is over. Then they call me anyway, and I can come back. Right? That was my thinking at the time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really a good thinking because once you get out of sight, then it gets a little bit more difficult. So what happened to me? I went to Germany. I signed with Braunschweig. I was really excited and got into the apartment. And I left my cell phone that I had in the US. I left it with my friend with Paco, right? Um,
Yeah.
Another German guy. He didn't have a cell phone, so I gave him my cell phone. And I said, hey, Paco, this is my cell phone. I know you don't have a cell phone. You can just use it. It's a straight talk phone from Walmart, so it's a prepaid phone. You just charge it up whenever you want. Here, you can have it, right? Just if you get a call, just let me know, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in Germany. Like after like 2 weeks in Germany, um, I see in the news the NFL lockout is lifted, right? So NFL lockout is lifted. I'm thinking, well, when am I going to get my call? Am I going to get my call? So all of a sudden I get this Facebook message, right, from Paco. And Paco says, hey, Sören, I just got a call here from the Cleveland Browns. Call this number back, right? Call them back. So 45 minutes later, basically, after I got the message, I called the Brown. No, well, I got the message. I saw the message 45 minutes after he sent it. And I called the Browns. I called the coach and I said, hey, coach, Sören Wendland here. I heard you calling me, right? He said, oh, Sören. Well, yeah, thanks for calling back. Yeah, but man, don't worry about it. We found somebody else, right?
Oh,
And that moment, then I realized, okay, my stock in the whole NFL draft was, yeah, if you would have been available right away, they would have called you in, brought you in for training camp. You would have had your chance,
yeah.
but you were not good enough to really be on the preferred list of people they were going to really reach out for.
Right.
And yeah, I did not get my chance. I didn't have another team calling me. It was just the Browns, and I didn't pick up the phone early enough. So that was my NFL chance kind of going away in that moment.
Wow.
And yeah, it's that was a little disappointing. I had some friends who made it. They were with an NFL team for 2 days or one day and got cut.
Mhm.
They really started cut down really fast on players in that week after the lockout was lifted. And yeah, I played for Braunschweig, and I was trying to get some tape together, and try to do another attack of making it to the NFL. But then, to be honest, we didn't really have any tape in Braunschweig. There was no end zone
Yeah.
recording. There was only sidelines. Some games were recorded, some were not. And then
Well,
after that
cool, yeah.
first year, I realized I don't really have tape. It's well, dream's over, right? So I focused on just on the Lions, and yeah, I was playing for Braunschweig. I actually got an opportunity to work at New Yorker, start my career there. Did an internship in the corporate development. Then I got an opportunity to work in the internal auditing at New Yorker. That really helped me out. And then when this whole um, when Braunschweig was really bad in 2011, 2012, I was approached and asked if I wanted to take on a position in the sponsoring department and really help out with managing or helping out the coaching staff and the executives with the lines. And I did that, and I helped out Coach Tomlin and the New Yorker executives to just do some operational management of the football team, and that was great. That was fun. I really loved it. And yeah, we won the German Bowl 2013, 2014. But then 2014 came around. We had our first kid, and then I realized, okay, football is not soccer, right? So I really looked out on Google, where can I make money? And Google told me the most money you can make if you don't have any special qualifications, like a doctor or a lawyer or something, most money you can make in sales. So then I looked up which branch would you make the most money, and said IT sales or oil sales or medicine sales, right? Medical devices. And I was like, okay, medical devices. I looked up jobs in that. You need to kind of have a little biology background, or you need an engineering background for oil and machinery. So I applied for IT and software sales, and I got a position, right? So then I started a career in
That's a roller coaster.
yeah, I started working in sales and with an IT company, and that goes really well. When I actually gave me the opportunity to really then continue playing football in the evenings. Yeah, I was working in the day and playing football in the evening. Played in Braunschweig 2015, 16, 17, 16, 2016. I basically ever after 2015 season, I started struggling. Some injuries caught up with me. I kind of fought through them. 2017 was a really bad year for me, like with injuries and other things, and I just realized I had to stop playing football.
Okay.
I moved to Berlin for work, and then yeah, just really stopped as a player. At least try to stop. I played then, and I was coaching with the Berlin Adler. I was the offensive line coach, and after a few games, of course, the 7 offensive linemen that you start with there are only 3 left, and then the first thing they ask you is, "Hey, coach, can you play?" Right? So I did 3 games for them, and I really stopped playing then summer 2019. That was my last game, and since that I'm done playing. I'm not really planning on coming back, and yeah, that's at the yeah, during all that time while I was playing for the Lions, the end of 2016, I started out with the Playmakers football camps.
Yeah, but
And
go quick back to the Lions. How was the Lions, the GFL football compared to college football? Because I know the Braunschweig Lions come with you to one of the best football teams in Europe. I think all these titles in row.
yeah,
How that was. How was for you the way from, because I remember your first day in Braunschweig. I picked you up and
yeah,
I was bringing you to the apartment,
yeah.
and how that was going on with Germany with the Lions, and of course compare players, coaches, how competitive was the roster, the football
Yeah.
in Braunschweig.
Yeah. So yeah, well, when I came back my first season 2011 when I played here in Germany, my very first play against Stuttgart, I got 2 penalties in one play.
Oh,
I got
really?
a holding, and then I got a clipping from behind, right? And it was just like it was just kind of um, but and I don't think that those penalties would have been called in the US. So it just felt like the game was a little different. And
Yeah.
as I then was playing, I realized, okay, now the competition here is also it's a little different. And I
Yeah.
realized, okay, this is not what it was anymore. And when you come back from college, I think that what we see with a lot of guys, especially the German guys I've played with that come from college and they come to Europe, right? It's a little bit depressing, playing now here. Especially it was a little depressing playing for a team that wasn't successful, right? And it makes you um, kind of, well, it leaves you kind of in this you've seen yourself as a football player on this high level, and you want to continue on that, and then you come to something where it's not that great, right? And then the team is not doing well, and then you all of a sudden have other responsibilities with working, and it gets you a little frustrated also, right? Now it's great to keep playing football and doing that, and I think for most American players, where an American player is not really used to that he can play football all the time. In Germany, you can play football all the time. You can play football when you're 30, when you're 40. So we have some guys at the camps that show up, they're 45 and they want to play football, right? So there's not an end of life to it. But for American player, usually they have an end of life to it, and they can extend their career in Germany, right?
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying doesn't really make much sense right now. But for me, at first, basically in essence, my first year, I was a little frustrated. And I think I was frustrated because of my career was over, and then I was frustrated because the Lions were doing so bad. And then the 2012, I was really frustrated because I thought I've seen, okay, what would we need to change to be successful here, okay?
Yeah.
Because once you played in America, you've kind of seen that stuff, what you would need to do to become a little bit more successful if you've been on a successful team. And I got really frustrated 2012, and I got really upset that we were not successful because it just needed some few things to make it really successful, right?
Yeah.
And then Coach Tomlin came in 2013, and working with him, I mean, and then I really got my appreciation and love back for football, because we just did all the right things to make it successful again. He had the right coaching, the right game plan, the right approach to the practice. We brought in the right players that really help out, and then we made it to the German Bowl, and that was really great. And then I was really able to get the appreciation back, the joy of the game by winning. By winning, that really gets me excited and going.
Mm-hmm.
And now what I like to say to that is then, now comparing it to the level of play, as we were then winning games and getting into that professionalism in Braunschweig in the 2013 season with Coach Tomlin and Coach Likens, I would really say it compares to a Division Two school program. So comparing the GFL, I would compare it to a lower level D2 program for sure. I think the top teams in the GFL can compete, like Schwäbisch Hall now, or the last 2 years, they could probably compete with a D2 school. Innsbruck, the Lions, Dresden, the top teams, they could, Frankfurt, yeah, they could probably compete with a lower level D2 school, definitely D3 school.
Yeah, I remember 2013, you beating my Dresden Monarchs in the German Bowl. I was sitting in the States, I watching that, and I was like heartbroken because I still know a lot of guys from the Braunschweig roster from my time in 2011, and of course my Dresden Monarchs I was like, damn! But
Yeah.
that was the kickoff. That was from 2013. That was the kickoff to 4 German balls,
Yeah.
3 hero balls, and you beat everyone. Like you call out the names. You beat the Rocco Raiders.
Yeah.
You beat the Vienna Vikings, the Schwäbischer Unicorns. You beat them all.
Yeah.
Was there a special team chemistry, or was just like people from outside that always say, "Oh, Braunschweig, they're paying players and blah blah blah." Was it like that, or was it also a huge team effort, chemistry? How that is in team sports?
No, I mean Braunschweig has a great chemistry, right?
Yeah,
People, I don't know what the story is really, but I think people look at it like, oh, everybody gets paid. People just go there because of the money, but that's not really true. Like what Braunschweig does really well with is getting players that want to play, that are passionate for football and want to play football, right? And when you then come to Braunschweig, you are surrounded by players that, first of all, they share the love of the game. They all want to be successful. They don't come there to just show off and be the disco football player. They want to put the work in, and they all put the work in, right? They go to the gym, they lift weights, they run, they meet extra, they do extra meetings, they commit their time to be at practice. We practice Braunschweig. You practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday game, right?
Yeah.
They are there at every practice. They spend on Thursday and Mondays extra hours, right, during the season. And those guys, they're really committed to what they do, right? And yes, then some players get paid in Braunschweig. Pretty much all the top teams are having to pay players now
Oh
to
yeah.
keep them, right?
Yeah.
And what they help you out with making it work for you, that you can put football into your life, right?
Yeah.
And that's a really important thing to do. That's how you get players. That's how you get the best players. Give them a great opportunity to learn, to be coached, to play. I mean, the practice we do at Braunschweig, that's just like you do in college football in America, right? Just the exact same thing. We run a few less plays than in college football in America because we
Yeah.
have less players,
Mhm.
but it's the exact same practice. It's really professional. The whole organization is professional. So that makes it really fun for everybody to be around, and people don't have to worry about much other stuff. They can really focus on what they have to do, and that's playing football, right?
Yeah. That sounds great.
And that's one of the biggest things, especially for a guy like you were talking about before, coming from the university system, from Liberty, for example. And like you kind of said, right? I mean, especially the special situation with you where you basically missed your shot, at least the one chance that you said you had by this much, by a little bit. And then you go into that situation where now you see, and you're essentially, like you were talking about, you were part of at least helping that program develop, and then you make it to a point where it's kind of saying, like you kind of said, it's the structure is as close as you possibly can to at least to try to have here in Europe, like you would have in the States. And like you're trying to say, like you have all these guys on the same mindset, and that is huge because, and I get it, like for some guys, their purpose out here may be, hey, maybe I can make $200 a month or $400 a month. But then it's like what you said, right? And we had Jamal White, the safety they have there right now, last week with Rory. But he even said it too. He's like, you have guys who understand, okay, this is what it takes to compete at this level, and that's the biggest thing that I noticed, especially when you said everybody has the same mindset. They want to be successful at football and find a way to make it work.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what it's about. And I think once you get to that level, right, then your team really becomes good. And we've seen it in Schwäbisch Hall. I feel like they're doing that thing. People that are there, they take it serious. They're doing it because they want to do it at a high level, and it kind of shows that they are doing that. It shows in Dresden. But for some reason, Dresden is always falling short.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't know what it is in Dresden.
No, every referees are listening. I like you.
In Frankfurt, they're doing that, and there's other teams also doing it. I think Rostock in the second league, they have good guys. They're taking it very serious. I mean, pretty much every team that's becoming successful in a way, they only get successful because they have a bunch of guys who take it serious and really commit to the game, right? To the time, to their teammates, and to putting in the work. Otherwise, you will not have success. Yeah.
Right. And so I mean, I was exposed to this, I believe, back in, I'm going to say 2016, I believe, 2016, 2017-ish. You came up with Playmakers Camps, and that's something where right now it's been one of the, let's say, the top camps out here in, let's say, Germany and in Europe, per se, where the kids want to come, they want to learn in the off season, and it's not only tailored towards kids. I believe it's a little bit higher age, like that's at least something that you were doing for some of the camps. But how did that come to be that you said, you know what, I want to develop these playmaker camps and help the game grow? Not only that, but also have coaches clinics a part of it.
Yeah. So, but when I was in college, I was always talking to my coaches there. I said, hey, when I go back to Germany, if I go back, I want to really have a football camp. Would you come to my camp? Would you do this? And they were telling me, if you do it, we can find a way. And so, but basically what I'm trying to say is I was thinking about doing camps like that already when I was in college, right? And when I came to Germany, I was always excited about any opportunity where I was invited to coach. I helped out with the Niedersachsen All-Star team one year. I got invited to a few local teams and camps, and then as I was working for the Lions, one time I set a camp up with IMG Academy, where we organized them to come over, and I really liked it because I always felt like, okay, the reason why I like it and why I always wanted to do camps was when I started playing football, I started out with the Cuxhaven North Stars, and as I described, there wasn't really a team there, right? There was one coach, there was no youth team. There were, as you can imagine, Cuxhaven North Stars. Everybody probably thinks like, okay, that sounds like never heard of that team. Well, you may have never heard of them. They were a big deal in the North back then, right? But you probably never heard of them, and there's a reason we never heard of them. It was a small team, and what these small teams have is they're lacking structure, they're lacking enough players, they're lacking coaching. And every time I went to Niedersachsen, also the German national team, I was there in the camp, and I learned so much in one weekend, right? It was like, it was blowing my mind, right? And I just really wanted to create that opportunity for kids to, or players that are passionate about football, come in and learn, get some coaching from somebody who's been there before at a level where you may want to go to. And so so I always had the passion for it. And then one time I get an email in my email account from Nate Popple from the Quarterback Ranch in the US. And he said, hey, we've been referred to you by Joop Woedenberg, right? Joop Woedenberg, you know, the guy from the Netherlands? Joop? Yeah, and Joop Woedenberg said, you may be a good person to talk to when it comes to camps. We want to come to Germany, we want to do a camp. And I was thinking, Quarterback Ranch, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to set up, and yeah, I wanted to set up a camp anyway. We can work together. They come over and we just set up a camp, right? So I was in Braunschweig, and I was working with New Yorker to try to get the camp set up in Braunschweig, and that fell through. And then I talked to some former teammates, well, just coaches I know at Bremerhaven. In 2016, January 2016, we set up a camp in Bremerhaven. It was we called a winter football camp, and the Quarterback Ranch came over. They came over with 3 guys. It was Nate Popple, Joseph Wähler, and what's his name? I think Robinson.
Yeah.
Forgot his name, but he played in the NFL for a while. So they came over, and we did the camp in Bremerhaven. It was a great turnout. We had 100 kids there, and I was excited afterwards. Right, I was thinking, well, that's great. We had a great camp. Well, let's make it a series. So I was talking to them. I wanted. As I was preparing for the camp, that's a really important thing to say. As I was preparing for the camp, I reached out to potential sponsors, and I reached out to Playmakers Football, the football shop. Okay, and that's Pascal. Pascal owns the Playmakers Football Shop. And I reached out to him. I said, hey, you want to sponsor the camp and stuff like that? And he wrote me back, hey, I like that. It's a great thing that you're doing. I want to help you out. So Pascal and I worked together, and he talked to some of his suppliers, and they were actually able to help us out with balls and with T-shirts and some gear. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just things we need to get this camp going. And so since then, and Pascal came to the camp, and he was coaching and he was helping out. He loved it. I loved it. And then after the winter football camp in Bremerhaven, we were talking, and he then made the suggestion. He said, hey, Sören, you want to keep organizing the camp? Why don't you call them Playmakers Camp, and you can use my social media outlet that was already there to get the numbers up. And I was thinking, Playmakers Camp sounds good. I can use the social media. That's great. I can work with Pascal. He's a great guy. He's a really, really smart guy. Knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And had a lot of resources. And I said, yeah, I want to work with him. And that's kind of where the partnership started. We called the camps Playmakers Camps. We talked to some more suppliers. They were able to help with even more equipment, right? And we planned the first camp series in 2016 with the Quarterback Ranch. They were coming back in November. We advertised it. We did 4 camps in that November, and it was a good turnout. We broke even, and we were able to continue the series. Realized, hey, we can do this in February as well. Brought in coaches in February, continued doing camps in February. Did it again 2017 November, and then started doing summer camps. And the series just kind of kicked off. We did now until last camp we did now is in February until Corona broke out, but we did 34 Playmakers camps so far, 34 camps. 34, and that's a lot. We have over 2,000 participants at the camps from more than 200 different teams, right? And yeah, it's a success. It's a great series. We average We average a good amount of players in each camp. Some camps, some turns turn out even better than others, and some are a little less. But basically, end of the day, we always have a good time. I think what I did a good job with was bringing in the right coaches. When Mele was there, I think the coaches that we bring into the camp. Sometimes lately I get a lot of requests from coaches wanting to coach in the camp, right? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I really appreciate it. I feel like they have a passion for coaching. I kind of want to bring them in, but when it all started out, I kind of got this core group of coaches, and they did it for the passion. They didn't do it for the money. They did it for the passion. They really wanted to coach kids and players and help them out. And yeah, I think over that time we kind of started becoming friends, and then it's fun to see them at the weekend, and it's just it's just a great time. And yeah,
Oh, yeah.
No,
sorry.
I mean, I was about to say, especially a guy for you, where you're saying what essentially your purpose and your vision behind it is, right? Like you're saying, like you want to have guys that, at the end of the day, you're. I mean, from the reason why I know why I was doing the camps for you, especially what you were saying, is like you're doing it to what better football. Like you just talked about right now, like from what you noticed as you coming up as a player, you know that hey, a lot of these kids need this. I saw it too, like when I was coaching for Bayern, was it all those years? It's like these kids would come into camps, like especially the first long camps we would have, and they will learn so much, and they would ask like, hey, how can we learn? And if you're able to have camps, and it's nothing against their coaches, but at least that's a way for these kids to get better and then go back, to their local programs, and then it's going to trickle through, but the biggest thing, like you kind of said, you want to have coaches that share that same mindset as you.
And we really see them improving. We see the players, sometimes we get them for one camp, we come back the next year, they're there again, and they've improved.
Yeah.
They improve from first day to the second day. And what we do is with the camps, we really try to get players to their next level. So what that means is, if you are a guy who's never thrown a football before and you want to play quarterback, you can come to the camp and learn that. If you are the guy who wants to become a starter at quarterback at your club, you come to the camp and we show you how to do it, right? All the stuff we're talking about, the basics, the drills we do, and the fast pace that we're having at the camp is really what's going to make you better to take your next step. The better you become in those details, the easier it will be for you to take the next step. And we have guys that have made it to college. We have guys that made it to get a starting job. We have guys at the camps who made it from who realized that they really want to go for something more, and now they're playing in the GFL and are dominating in the GFL. Like Tim Unger, one time, he's one of the best DBs, I would say, right now in the GFL. He was at the Playmakers Camp, right? And he really showed he has a passion. He asked, what can I do more? And kind of showed him, told him, and he ended up in Braunschweig, right? Yeah. That doesn't mean we don't recruit at the camps, but it's just like we give like players we show them up, hey, like this is what you have to do to get to where you want to go, right? And we do have the coaches there to make the connections and to other organizations if they want to go to the US, if they want to go to college, and make the introductions, help them to just develop, even with private trainings or more individual training. And yeah, I think we put together a really good package there. And the relationship with the quarterback ranch is really good. We're trying to bring them back every year, and yeah, it's been working out really well for us.
Is there a change in kind of the goal or the vision now at this point? Because like you said, it's been 30 plus camps, so it's like, was it 4 years later now? You looking to more expand, or what are you kind of looking at as being the founder of it, and kind of seeing like the next steps to take out here? Because this is a thing, right? And this also being in the States, like when we talk about camps, they're big in the States. When you talk about camps out here in Europe, at least let's say 5 years ago, they weren't really in existence. And now you're seeing all these camps pop up, especially yours, where everybody's talking about every year. Like these kids talk about, they want to go to the camps, and their parents are trying to find a way to get them there.
Yeah. So the goal is really kind of continue the concept as we've been doing. It's working. It's good. We definitely want to expand. Want to go to other countries. Want to go to other countries too. There's some talks right now. So for me personally, I have to admit that I'm pulling myself a little bit out. I'm trying to bring in some other people, partnering up with some other people that are taking more responsibilities within the organization.
Mm-hmm.
We are likely to to merge with another well-known organization here in the next few weeks. And the goal is kind of to build a platform, okay, for this kind of camp, and really then enable certain people to go out and do the camp, the concept, as we've been doing. And that's all right now in the plans. And once we've kind of gotten our heads into this and worked this out, I think it'd be very good for the football community in Europe to really join on these camps. We're thinking about, you know, setting it up the way that we can also expand potentially to the US, okay, giving something to all these import players that are here to take a concept back in the US. Because one time we did a camp in the US. Sorry Bayo, he's who was now coaching in China the last few years. He got a bunch of T-shirt and took basically the concept with him to Miami, and he did it there for kids. And so when you take our concept, the way it differs from other camps, and even in the US, it's more, you know, like a showcase. You go there, you just get your gear, and you just run through a bunch of drills without the coaches having really taught you anything. So what we really do at the camp is now we spend time with the drills. We explain the techniques, we correct them, right? And that is something a lot of camps in the US are missing. That is something not many people in Europe have done on a large scale like we do. And I think that's what makes us successful. And that's why I believe we can take these camps and bring them anywhere.
Yeah, that sounds great. Come up to the last question, last topic. How is this year going? How is Playmaker Corona? You have something on hold. You had already something planned. How this affect you, like everyone in the world right now?
Yeah, so we had to cancel our last camp in March in Norderstedt. That was when Corona kind of really hit off in the news, in the media, and all these lockdowns and rules were implemented.
Yeah.
We canceled that camp, unfortunately. We had some camps planned for the summertime, but as it is right now, I don't see it happening. It's just too much of a risk, and then hopefully we get to the November camps. Okay.
Yeah.
November is definitely our month for camps, our camp month, where we bring our partners in from the US. But it's really uncertain times right now, so we just kind of see how everything develops in the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, appreciate your time, and I hope everyone out there listen to it. I mean, this is a guy who made camp for the kids, for the juniors out there, who run through all of it. You know, from starting in Germany, going to the States, and coming back, and also be successful in Europe. Thank you, Sören, for your time late at the night. And I hope you stay safe and your family, everyone come through the Corona thing, and kids out there, sign up for the Playmaker camps when you see them on somewhere on the internet. Sign it up. It's one of the great experience you can make in European youth football. Thank you for your time.
Maybe
yeah.
One thing, if you let me say that, just a little advertisement. So on our website, okay, playmakers-camp.de, there's the member zone, okay? And if you sign up in the member zone, you just basically put in your email address, your name, and your phone number. Then you have access to all our coaches clinic videos, right? And I know, Mele, you have a presentation in there. I'm gonna send you the link. Give me some time, and you can access your own presentations and share the link maybe with people that you want to share it with.
No, we also tagged it in our stories on Instagram, and we'll put it all out there for you, especially in the YouTube channels and all that. We'll share.
Sounds great. Yeah, just whoever wants to get some access to free coaching videos, Playmakers Camp, sign up, and then you get the access code sent to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and have a good night, everyone.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Have a good night, buddy. Appreciate it. God bless.
Thank you.
All right.